This experience happened when I was in college and I was attending a class reunion. We decided to choose the farm of a classmate's family as the location of the party. The weather was very nice that day. At this farm, we decided to play a baseball game to see who could hit the ball farther. When the game started, the other students and I took turns to hit the ball on the field. Everyone swung the bat hard, hoping to hit the baseball farther. Unfortunately, I didn't do very well and I wasn't able to hit the ball very far. I lost the game. According to the pre-agreed rules, I needed to retrieve all the baseballs that were far away. The farm was surrounded by very high fences and the fences were covered with barbed wire. When I jumped from the top of the fence, I cut my palm by the sharp barbed wire. In an instant, a large amount of blood began to gush rapidly out of the wound. I couldn't go back the way I came because my palm couldn't take any more pressure. The people at the party didn't notice my condition because they were far away from me. I felt a great deal of panic. I knew I needed to get back to the party as soon as possible. When I got back to the party, I found a water source and rinsed the wound with water. When I looked at the wound, it looked a little deep and kept bleeding. I tied my shirt tightly around the wounded area, hoping to stop the bleeding as soon as possible. I have a high pain tolerance, as I have often been injured in previous sports, so I tried to stay calm. My clothes were soon soaked with bright red blood. The wound still did not stop bleeding. I told my classmates not to worry, that I would be fine, that I was strong. After a while, I realized that the situation had become urgent and that I needed to seek more professional medical help. Now I urgently needed stitches, but the nearest hospital was an hour's drive away. I kept reassuring myself that I would be fine soon and not to panic. I looked at my watch and more than an hour had passed since I was injured. Suddenly, I had a wonderful feeling in my body that started in my feet and quickly spread throughout my body. The feeling was indescribable and made me feel very strange. I told my best friend that something strange was happening, but that no matter what happened, I would be fine. Even though I had no idea what was about to happen, I tried to stay positive. Then, I felt myself getting lighter and lighter, as if I was free from my body's restraints. This feeling put me in a supernatural state. I felt myself gradually leaving my body. Finally, I entered a state that transcended the material world. I can't describe that feeling, it was beyond what humans can understand. I felt a sense of peace, and any pain or worry disappeared. Although I had left my body, I still maintained my sense of self. I had no idea what would happen next. While I was floating in the air, there were many people around my body. I didn't want to worry them, so I started shouting, "Hey, I'm right here, I'm fine." They couldn't seem to hear me. I approached one of my friends and tried to tap him on the shoulder, but he didn't respond. This made me feel more and more confused. Suddenly, I felt myself start to drift upward uncontrollably. This feeling made me feel very nervous because no matter how hard I tried, I could not change the situation. As I continued to rise, the sky turned from blue to black. There was not a single ray of light in this place, and darkness enveloped everything around. Here, time seemed to have come to a standstill. I felt as if I was trapped in a maze. In the darkness, I could feel the presence of evil, as if countless pairs of eyes were watching me. Evil spirits hovered in the air, with twisted forms and hideous faces, emitting low hissing sounds. These evil spirits gave off an evil aura that I could not bear. They kept changing their forms, sometimes transforming into monsters, and sometimes into shadowy shadows. The atmosphere here made me feel depressed and desperate. They surrounded me and tried to drag me into the abyss. I still harbored a ray of hope. I began to pray that I would continue to float upward, away from these demons. Fortunately, my prayers seemed to be answered. I continued to float upward, away from the spooky evil spirits. I continued to pray that I would find the light. A bright light appeared in the distance from me. As I entered this light, a pure energy surrounded me. The light shone on my body, giving me warmth and strength and making me feel good about life. A man in a white robe appeared in front of me. The man's gaze was warm and loving, as if he knew everything about me. "Welcome to this place." His voice was low and gentle, yet at the same time full of power. I felt accepted and understood, as if I had returned to a home where I truly belonged. "You successfully fought off those evil spirits," he continued, "and your faith and prayers have brought you here. Now, you will get the answers you want here. This man seems to be my mentor. Please follow me," he said, and turned to walk deeper into the light. Curious, I followed. We passed through a gate and then entered a completely different realm. A magnificent array of buildings unfolded before my eyes. The man led me into one of the buildings, which looked like a huge library. The shelves were lined with countless books and scrolls. The man told me that I would find the true meaning about life here. I began to explore this mysterious and wisdom-filled place. There, I learned about the importance of love and forgiveness. I learned about the universe. Learned about its origin and how it works, and our role and mission in it. Man served as my mentor and patiently answered all my questions. He helped me to broaden the boundaries of my thinking. In this mysterious library, time seemed to have no concept of existence. I gradually understood that life is a journey. Each of us is a part of the universe, carrying a unique mission and purpose. I found the answers I had been searching for in this mysterious library. Next, the man took me to a peaceful garden. The flowers emitted an enchanting fragrance. The man pointed to a distant valley and said that was our next destination. We passed through a dense forest. As we climbed, the man told me that every challenge is a gift of life, they shape our courage and resilience. It is only in the face of difficulty that we can truly surpass ourselves. Eventually, we made it to the top of the mountain. The man pointed to the sunset in the distance and said that the moment the sun sets, we should be grateful for every day of sunshine. In that moment, I felt the preciousness of life and understood the importance of cherishing and gratitude. Standing at the top of the mountain, I felt inner peace and determination. I was determined to incorporate what I had learned into every detail of my life and to impact others with kindness and wisdom. The man watched me as he encouraged me to believe in my own strength and to persevere in the pursuit of my inner truth and goodness. I looked at the man gratefully. I understood that this moment was our moment to say goodbye and that I had to return to the real world to continue my journey. The man embraced me gently. I looked at the beauty of the place and took a deep breath. I thanked the man and will always miss this precious experience. I turned around and walked towards the bottom of the mountain. Every step was so real. I felt the pain again. I knew that I was back in the real world. When I opened my eyes, my classmates were all around me. I stood up to their great surprise. I said excitedly, "You won't believe this, but I just went to another place." However, I was disappointed by their reaction. They exchanged glances with each other with confused expressions, as if they could not understand what I was saying. One of them whispered to me, "Calm down first, you need to go to the hospital now." I tried to explain again, telling them about the adventure I had just taken, but they didn't seem to be listening. They started arguing about who should drive me to the hospital. This made me feel very frustrated. I wished I hadn't returned to Earth, but remained in that place. Despite my desire to share with them, their attention was focused on my injuries. They wanted me to calm down and get proper treatment and care. My classmates were ready to drive me to the hospital. I lay in the back seat and thought back to what I had just experienced. I began to wonder if what I had just experienced was just a hallucination. The time in the car seemed to become very long. Suddenly, I felt a wave of dizziness and I lost consciousness again. This time, I left my body faster than before, as if I had traveled back in time and space in an instant, back to the top of the mountain before. The man's voice reappeared. He told me that this was not a game, and that I had to return to Earth to help the others. He promised to send me back immediately. I felt a strong force surround me and I was back in my body again. This time the return seemed to be more rapid. I was lying in a hospital bed, surrounded by unfamiliar sounds and sights. I understood that I was back on Earth, back in my own life. The doctor took an antiseptic tool and carefully cleaned my wound. I closed my eyes tightly, the whole process was not too long. The doctor removed the gloves, smiled and said to me, "The wound has been treated, now you need to rest, let the body recover as soon as possible." I nodded my head and thanked the doctor. Before he left the room, I shared with him what I had just experienced. I described the mysterious place. After the doctor listened to my description, he smiled a little, seemingly with a hint of doubt. Then, he left the room. Although the doctor did not respond to me directly, I swear that the experience was real. Not only did that experience change my perspective on life, it also made me realize that everyone has a journey and a calling of their own. I know that that experience was real and meaningful to me. I will always keep this precious experience. I re-examined my relationship with my parents. When I went to college, my relationship with my parents began to become strained. I now realized that they have been quietly giving of themselves to me. Therefore, I decided to treat them with an attitude of gratitude. I began to take the initiative to communicate with my parents and listen to their ideas and opinions. I learned to respect their point of view more. This change brought more harmony to us. We understood each other better and respected each other's space and needs. This experience gave me a new understanding and perception of family, and it became a valuable asset in my life. This experience happened in 2001. One day, I received a phone call from my father, who told me that he had just been examined in the hospital. I was shocked to find out that my father had terminal lung cancer and was nearing the end of his life. I knew I had to get to his side as soon as possible, so I got on a plane the next day. I had taken a long vacation because I wanted to be with him during this time. When I arrived, my father was resting quietly on the couch, looking very frail. He looked at me with a smile. During the time I was with my father, he made some important decisions. First, he decided to forego further treatment because he thought it would only cause him more pain. He decided to welcome death. To help my father find peace in his soul, some priests came to his home. They spoke with the father about faith and Jesus Christ. One of the pastors asked, "Do you accept Jesus Christ as your Savior?" This was a key question, and the pastor wanted to make sure that the father was ready to accept God's salvation. Although the father was physically weak, he answered firmly, "I accept." Father wanted to find peace and salvation for his soul by establishing a deeper connection with God in the last stage of his life. From that moment on, Father was in a very peaceful state. He prayed and read the Bible every day, as he had done before. One cold early morning, I stood by my father's bedside and helped him light his last cigarette. I knew that the main cause of his lung cancer was caused by smoking. I had urged him many times to quit smoking, but it was too late to talk about it anymore. A few hours later, my father left me peacefully. I couldn't control my emotions and hugged his body and cried loudly. I felt a deep sense of loss and pain. However, just a few minutes later, I saw my father's spirit appear in the air. It was as if it was telling me that he had achieved relief and happiness. It was a feeling I had never had before, an experience beyond reality. I shouted up into the air in excitement. "Dad, is that you? I love you." At that moment, I felt a special kind of peace and happiness, as if my father's soul had passed on a kind of comfort to me. Later, I told my family members around me about the event. They did not feel excited and thrilled. On the contrary, they reassured me that it was just a hallucination I had when I was extremely sad. These words made me question my own feelings, and I began to think that maybe they were right, maybe I was just missing my father so much that I was hallucinating. 29 days later, something else happened that made me even more convinced that what I was experiencing was real. That morning, I was sleeping in bed when I was suddenly awakened by a strange sound. I sat on the edge of my bed and thought to myself, "What is this sound? Why did I feel so strange?" I looked at the time. It was only about 7 o'clock. I decided to sleep a little longer. Shortly after I lay down, I suddenly felt someone appear next to me. I looked up and was surprised to find that it was my father. His appearance had changed dramatically. He looked only about 30 years old. He was wearing a pair of jeans and a plaid shirt, an outfit he used to wear before. He looked in very good health. My father's smile was so warm and familiar. My father held my hand, and I could clearly see the details on his left hand. The lines on his fingers were clearly visible. These details made me feel his real presence, as if the connection between us had never been broken. I knew that his spirit had come to me once again. The next thing I knew, I was out of my body. I looked down and saw my body still lying on the bed. I was shocked and excited because it was an experience like no other. My father had been holding my hand, and his presence gave me a sense of strength and comfort. I felt a sense of light weightlessness. I began to move upward with my father. We passed through the roof and then through the clouds. We came to a beautiful and peaceful world. The sun was bright and warm here. Light clouds floated in the sky, creating beautiful patterns and shapes. We continued along a path lined with flowers, which gave off an enchanting fragrance. Father led to a huge square where a lot of people were gathered. Each of them had a smile on his face. They held hands and sang and danced together. I saw a huge table on the right. The table was covered with food. To my surprise, the food was not meat, but some fruit-like food. I noticed that one fruit was similar to an orange, but it was brighter in color and shimmered. There was also another fruit shaped like a grape, but it was blue in color. My father took me out of the lively square and we came to a peaceful countryside. Under a large tree, I found an elderly man sitting in a chair, holding an old book in his hands. Not far from him, two old men were playing chess. Curious, I approached them. The chessboard seemed to be floating in the air. They did not need to touch the pieces, they could control the movement of the pieces through their mind. Their eyes were very focused on me. When they determined the position, the pieces would float gently in the air and land on the position they wanted. I was amazed by this wonderful sight. Next, my father took me to the depths of the countryside. A cozy little wooden hut appeared before my eyes. The cottage was surrounded by a faint fragrance of wood. There was a small garden in front of the door. The furniture inside was all handmade. The bookshelves were filled with various books. The windows overlooked the scenery outside. You can see the green hills and the lake in the distance. In another room, various carving tools are stacked. These tools are neatly arranged. My father always loved the art of wood carving. I vividly remember that when I was 7 years old, my father made an exquisite toy pistol out of wood. At that time, I loved this toy pistol so much that I would put it under my pillow every night when I went to bed. At that time, I felt particularly proud and happy. However, as I grew older, I no longer put it under my pillow, and I don't know where it is now. This little room makes me nostalgic for those innocent and wonderful times. My father said to me, "Son, this is my home now, a place free from pain and worry. Remember, no matter what happens, I will always love you. We will not part forever, we will be together again. But for now, you must go back and get on with your life. Pursue your own dreams and don't let yourself be left with regrets." My heart was so conflicted, I longed to stay by his side. My father came closer to me, he ran his hand through my hair and said, "Son, I understand how you feel. You have many things to do and many people to take care of. No matter what time it is, I will always be there for you." I said in a weak voice, "Okay, Dad. I will go back and get on with my life." My father smiled, and his image slowly began to blur. "Remember," he said gently, "we will meet again, and then we will be together forever. I love you, son." After a while, I went back to bed. I slowly opened my eyes, and my mind felt very lost. The clock next to my bed showed the real time and my heart became heavy. I sat up, feeling my body was still a little tired. I sat quietly on the edge of the bed. Although it felt like a dream, the emotions and experiences in it were so real and deep. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. I told myself that although my father was no longer with me, his love was still there. I got up from the bed and opened the window, letting the fresh air fill the room. I felt the warmth of the sun. I realized that I still had a lot to do. The next day, I received a call from my brother. On the other end of the line came my brother's excited and thrilled voice. He told me that he had seen his father yesterday. My father was sitting at his bedside and holding his hand. I asked him what else had happened. My brother replied that my father had told me a story, but unfortunately, I don't remember the details now. Then, I continued to ask him if he remembered the clothes his father was wearing. My brother replied that he was wearing a red plaid shirt with a pair of jeans underneath, and his shoes were a pair of brown leather shoes. I was very surprised to hear these details. I asked my brother about the time of the incident. He replied that it was around 7 a.m. The time I saw my father was exactly the same as the time described by my brother. This could not be just a coincidence, it was my father's way of communicating his care to us. This experience reinforced my belief that my father's spirit is still around to watch over us. I know that when I leave this world, I will go to another place to continue my life. Heaven will become my true home. There, I will be reunited with my family again and feel the peace and joy of eternity. Although there are many people who are skeptical about my experience, I don't care what they think. Because I believe that God is all around us and that He loves everyone unconditionally. This experience has convinced me that heaven is real. It is the home of our souls and our eternal home. I will carry this belief through the rest of my days and face the challenges and difficulties of life positively. I know that only through a positive attitude and actions will I be able to join my beloved Father in heaven again someday in the future. I believe in my experience because it has given me strength and courage. I no longer fear death because I know it is only part of the journey of life. My heart is filled with trust in God. If you are experiencing the pain of losing a loved one, I hope my experience can give you some help and comfort. Loved ones who have passed away have not left us, they are still with us and watching over us. We will be together again at some point in the future. Let's face the challenges of life positively and believe in the power of love and hope.